Shabbat Shalom, friends. We're so glad to welcome you to Congregation Kol Ami here in West Hollywood as we celebrate Football Friday, or Sports Friday, and let us begin to celebrate Shabbat together. Rabbi? Good Shabbos, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We're so glad you're here to celebrate Shabbat this evening. Tonight, you are seeing the efforts to celebrate the football game on Sunday between the Tennessee Titans and the Los Angeles Rams, which is Rabbi Levy's team is the Titans, and I am a hometown girl. So we're celebrating Football Friday, and all of those of us who care about and like sports as entertainment and enjoy. American humorist Louis Grizzard said this: "The game of life is a lot like football. You have to tackle your problems, block your fears, and score your points when you get the opportunity." So tonight, let us tackle our problems through prayer. Let us block our fears through support of community. And let's score points together for building a world of peace and justice and love. As we sing in Psalm 92, the song for the Sabbath day.
מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. להגיד בבוקר אסתך, ואמונתך בלילות, עלי אסור ועלי נבל, עלי היגיון בכינור. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. כי שימחתני אדוני בפועלך, במעשה ידיך רנן. מה גדלו מעשיך אדוני, מאוד עמקו מחשבותיך. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך העליון. מזמור שיר ליום השבת, טוב להודות לאדוני, ולזמר לשמך העליון, ולזמר לשמך עליון.
We turn to page 120 and 121 in our prayer books, Mishkan Tefillah, and you can find that at ccarnet.org. And go to the coronavirus resources page. You'll find a flipbook version with exactly the same pages as our Siddur that we use here in our sanctuary if you're watching online. And it's my honor and pleasure to call longtime temple members to light our Shabbat candles, Mary Jane Varley and Joe Sherman, in memory of the first yortzeit of Joe's mother, Marcia Sherman.
Shabbat.
There we go.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us.
As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the lights of Shabbat.
Baruch atah Adonai
Eloheinu melech haolam
asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
We turn to page 123 and ask Mary Jane and Joe to lift up the Kiddush cup as we sing together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagofen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodsho b'yava uvratzon inchilanu zikaron lema'aseh bereshit ki hu yom tefillah lemikra'e kodesh zecher letziat mitzrayim kivanu v'charta v'yotanu kidashta mikomim v'shabbat kodshecha be'ava uvratzon inchaltanu baruch atah Adonai b'kadesh hashabbat l'chaim to life. Thank you so much to the both of you. As we prepare to welcome the Shabbat by singing Lecha Dodi, we're reminded of the words of Knut Rockne. The secret is to work less as individuals and more as a team. And that is what Shabbat is about, to stop our isolation and to come together in sacred community. So let's welcome the Sabbath into our midst. Page 138.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'dibor echad ishmi'anu el hamiuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shem ol tiferet v'letila. Lecha דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נצוחה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Let's rise and greet Shabbat, verse 9.
בואי משלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצולה, תוך אמוני עם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה. לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Here in our sanctuary, let's turn and greet one another. Shabbat Shalom. Introduce yourself if you don't know each other. And also online, Shabbat Shalom to each of you who are watching
Shabbat Shalom,
tonight.
Mom. Shabbat
And
Shalom, Dad.
wish
Shabbat
one
Shalom,
another
Ronnie, if
Shabbat
you're
Shalom.
watching. Go Titans. Tighten up.
Shabbat Shalom, Ellie. We remain standing, turning to page 146 for the Baruch Hu, the call to worship.
Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Yai la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach, HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. HaMevorach, HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed. Sports can bring many different people together, but it can also divide people apart. Rivalries within our families, within our communities, on particular days, whether it's Saturday or Sunday, or depending on what sports team, what season we're in, it can divide us. But even as we are divided, we still recognize the unity that we share, the oneness within our community, and the oneness we share as different pieces of one whole humanity. And so we celebrate that oneness and the oneness of God, the creator of all, as we turn to page 152 for the Shema. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem
Let's be seated together. And on page 155, would you join me in the English of the Wehrhafta? Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today, and teach them to your children. Talk about them at work, whether you are tired or you are rested. And let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all of my mitzvot, and so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai, your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. The great coach Bear Bryant said, have a plan. Follow the plan, and you'll be surprised how successful you can be. Most people don't have a plan, and that's why it's easy to beat most folks. As we think about crossing the Red Sea, God revealed a plan to Moses, first at the burning bush, that Moses was going to be the leader to take the people out. And each step of the way, God revealed a plan and enabled the children of Israel to achieve their goal of eventually crossing over to the Promised Land. Let us take inspiration from the words of our ancestors as they crossed the Red Sea, chanting and dancing and singing in victory, page 158.
Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai la lai la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nehedar b'kodesh, norah tehilot osei feled, norah tehilot osei feled. Malchutecha ra'u vanecha, pokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, ze elianu ve'amru, ze elianu ve'ameru. Adonai lo ve'olam va'ed, Adonai lo le'olam va'ed. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai lai lai la lai la 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 la. Yai la lai la ya la lai lai lai. I don't know how many of you know this, but the one Super Bowl that the Titans have ever been in 2000, they lost on a last-second play by a yard to the then St. Louis Rams. It is a moment that has caused much distress, both within my family and the wider Tennessee or Nashville community. But time has passed since then. We've healed, we've recovered. And part of that recovery is the rest that we seek to find, whether it be the rest at night as we pray for during our Hashkivenu blessing, or the rest that comes with time and the healing that can come with time. And so we'll continue on page 160 with Hashkivenu as we seek rest, we seek to lie down in security and to rise up once again to a new day. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomrei nu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomrei nu lechaim. Ushmot tzeiteinu Shivenu L'chaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Shivenu Adonai Eloheinu le'shalom v'hamidenu shomrei nu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu le'shalom v'hamidenu shomrei nu lechaim. We continue on the following page at the bottom as we celebrate the joy that comes with Shabbat and that we get to share together. Yismechu v'malchutcha, page 162. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei, mekadeshei shvi Shabbat. Kulam yisbehu v'yitamu t'vecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Ve'ashmi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamin oto korat ha-Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
Colin Kaepernick said this: obstacles don't have to stop you. If you run into a wall, do not turn around and give up. Figure out how to climb, go through it, or work around it. Our tefillah, our prayers that we beseech God, that we reflect on what's inside of ourselves, is a way to help us overcome the obstacles that we face. It's an opportunity to be in touch with our innermost desires and dreams, our innermost hopes and fears, and to use the words of our tradition to help us overcome whatever obstacle can be in our way. So let us bolster our faith and each other as we begin together, rising, page 164.
Ya na 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 svatai tita. Ya na 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 ufi agid tehilatecha. Ya na 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 Adonai. Ya na 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 svatai tita. Ya na 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 ufi agid tehilatecha.
Take some time for quiet and private prayer.
Ratzon, which concludes our Amidah prayer. Our Amidah prayers can be found on page 180. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, Megoali, Megoali. With our prayers still resonating within us, and the solidarity and community that we've built together through our prayer, we now offer a prayer for healing for those who might be in need, whether it be healing of body, healing of mind, or healing of spirit. At this time, Congregation Kol Ami is thinking of and praying for John Altschul, Linda Bacalayan, Vicky Beard, Richard Bernard, Don Bernstein, Tim Bestenheider, Dabby Blatt, Louise Cantrell, Wayne Cantrell, Jiang Cole, Olga Drucker, Francine Epstein, Tino Felipe, Dorothy Gibson Anderson, Lynette Graves, Don Hollis, Christopher Hughes, Madeline Kent, Jeffrey Lehman, Phil Lelyveld, Russell Kirschenbaum, Ellen Lank, Jeff Mackler, Deshaun McLean, Lauren Ostro, Tammy Rabowski, Ben Reback, Howard Romanoff, Judy Rosenberg, Lowell Selvin, Karen Schonbrum, Michael Simmental, Janine Snyder, Henry Sommerfeld, Suzanne Waldman, Kathy Weiss, Eitan Wolf, Nancy Wortman, David Ben Herschel Vabasha, and Sarit Bat Ilana. And to these names, we add those of you joining us here in person. And I would invite those joining us online to also include the names in the chat or in the comment section. For these, we offer our prayers for refuah shlema, complete and total healing, or depending on what part of their healing journey they're on, even just another step in the direction of healing. We join together in our prayer on page 371. Mi shebeirach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. As many of you know, and as my team affiliation suggests, I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, I am not the only Nashville native here joining us this evening. Nashville is located in what many people refer to as the Bible Belt, a general term for a large swath of the southeastern United States, characterized by its predominantly Christian and conservative religious and political perspective. Growing up in the Bible Belt, I became accustomed to passing by a church of a different flavor of Christianity on each street corner. But there is another religion that dominates the hearts and souls of the Bible Belt: the religion of sports, specifically the religion of football. Some would say that the two religions are not quite as separate at all. People live and die by their team affiliations in the South and in the Bible Belt. A common refrain you might hear in the Southeast is God, family, and football, though not quite always in that order. And although we Southern Jews may not quite fit in with the dominant Christian culture, many of us do indeed live and breathe specifically college football. As Rabbi Egger, I'm sure, can attest to, this core element of Southern Jewish culture is quite obvious to anyone who's spent a significant amount of time at Jacob's Camp in Utica, Mississippi. While the dominant religion of football in the Bible Belt can often serve as a unifying force, as I mentioned earlier, it can also be a source of immense conflict and strife. Anyone who's driven around in the area has likely come across a license plate frame or a bumper sticker describing the owner of the car as living in a house divided, which includes the logos of two rival teams. Now, of course, I have since learned that the religion of football is also widely practiced and observed here on the West Coast, where we have our own divided houses, this potentially being one of them, between USC and UCLA, Arizona and Arizona State, or if we're shifting sports a little bit, the San Francisco Giants and the LA Dodgers. These rivalries and the wounds suffered on their account run very, very deep amongst avid sports fans. And this week's Parashah Toldot lays out the origins of another sort of house divided, a rivalry that resounds for generations to come as we read of the conflict between Jacob and Esau, Yaakov ve'esav. We read that after years of not being able to conceive, Rebekah finds herself pregnant with twins, who God informs her will be two separate nations, with the older destined to be subservient to the younger. As we continue reading, we see this conflict play out between the twin brothers. The older, Esau, is a rugged outdoorsman and a skilled hunter, while Jacob, the younger, is more at home in the tent with his mother, cooking and maintaining the household. What follows is well known to some of us, many of us. Jacob manipulates Esau into giving up his inheritance, using what must have been some incredible lentil stew, before eventually, with the help of their mother Rebekah, deceiving Isaac into giving Jacob the blessing reserved for Esau. Esau is understandably enraged, and Jacob must flee for his life. Thus, the conflict between the two, decreed by God and portended by the struggle within Rebekah's womb, comes to fruition. Two brothers destined to rivalry, a classic trope. But we must wonder, did it have to be so? Could there not have been a way for Jacob and Esau to grow up as companions and true brothers, not as rivals? Was this conflict truly destined, written into the fabric of time and history? Or was it the result of human beings revisiting the flaws and mistakes that characterized their own upbringing? For all the blessings and kinship that it can bring, the family we are born into can often bring immense challenge and pain. We are somehow tied to people that oftentimes we might not really get along with. And given any other situation, we might not even connect with otherwise. Some of our deepest joys and our most painful traumas come from family experience. And even as many of us do what we can to cut ourselves off from the family in which we were raised, the memories and experiences can have resounding influence throughout our lives. This is what our Torah shows us, both in this parashah and throughout the book of Genesis. On the one hand, the family conflicts we read in Genesis are meant as a sort of description and origin story for the eventual conflicts between neighboring nations in a particular region of the world. On the other hand, they also show us how family conflicts and human conflicts more broadly are often cyclical, the product of generation after generation reliving and reenacting the traumas and tragedies of their ancestors. Of course, we should remember that the family unit in the ancient times was central, economically as well as socially. In a tangible sense, it was very difficult to fully remove oneself from their family, as many in our modern day can do so. And yet, like our ancestors, we ourselves carry our families with us, even if it is through rejecting or rebelling against them. Beyond the Jacob and Esau rivalry, Toldot also includes stories about Isaac and Rebekah that either implicitly or explicitly hearken back to the journeys of Abraham and Sarah. For one, we read that upon entering a new city, Isaac and Rebekah present themselves to the ruler of that city as brother and sister, a familiar ploy to those who have read the stories of Abraham and Sarah. We also read of a neighboring people, the Philistines, filling up wells Abraham dug during Isaac's absence, which leads Isaac to then redig the same wells, quite literally retracing the steps of his father. Isaac and Rebekah carrying on the legacy of their forebears also comes to play an important role in the Jacob and Esau story. Once again, favoritism and competition lead to a conflict between two brothers that was not inevitable, despite their differences in character. Of course, the details are a bit different, but the pain and strife that follows is largely the same. How many of us have realized a time when we've said or have done something that echoes our parents or the folks who have raised us? How many of us in times of anger or in distress lashed out at loved ones in a similar way to what we saw growing up? How many of us continue to struggle with siblings and feel as if we live in a house divided by divisions much more deep and personal than our favorite sports teams? Even as we might try to separate ourselves, the reality is that family matters. It matters when it comes to how we interact with people, how we understand ourselves, and who we aspire to be in our lives. Family matters. But we are not bound to repeat the same flaws and shortcomings that may have hurt us so deeply. I do not believe that we are destined to conflict, bless you, like Jacob and Esau in Rebekah's womb, but instead that we can learn from the mistakes of our ancestors. We can reflect on the ways that those who came before us impacted us. We can seek healing from that pain and strive to do better and to be better in our own lives. This is why our Torah shows us the flaws and imperfections of our ancestors, not to repeat and emulate them, but to use them to grow and to be better in our own time. Conflicts and rivalries are very real things. Yes, in sports, but more deeply in many different aspects of our lives. Our tradition calls on us to reflect on the conflicts, both around us and within us. It calls on us to reflect on the role we might play in perpetuating them, and to find the ways and think creatively about how we can break the cycles of pain that continue to fuel them. May we learn from the shortcomings of our matriarchs and our patriarchs, both in our sacred text and in our personal experience. And may we strive to move beyond the less than ideal elements of our spiritual inheritance. Ken yehi ratzon, may it be God's will. Ken yehi ratzonenu, may it be our will. And let us say together, Amen.
Awesome. Thank you. Obviously, I don't know much about football, wearing a Kings shirt, but I really appreciate your sermon. And when I think about, what football, the first thing, no matter what team you're on, the first thing that you do is you go on the field and they huddle. And they say, go and have a good game, right? And I think about Kol Ami, and I think about our congregation. And I think that's what we do. We huddle during life cycle events, and we do it together. So Saturday, tomorrow, November 6th at 10 a.m. is Shabbat Awakening, our monthly Shabbat morning service. It's both in person and streaming, and it's a perfect way to really learn the art of prayer. Please join us for Rabbi Levy's installation weekend, Friday night, November 19th, and Saturday, November 20th. Join this for a festive pre-neg in our courtyard from 5:30 to 6:30 on Friday night. Then a special musical service at 6:30. And then on Saturday morning, Torah study will return in person and be online in our sanctuary. Don't miss the special musical Shabbat celebration. World AIDS Day is December 1st, the fourth night of Hanukkah. Kol Ami will be commemorate and remember at 7 p.m. here in our sanctuary. Dr. Michael Gottlieb, who 40 years ago wrote the first report of AIDS in 5 patients, will deliver our keynote at our interfaith observance. And we will have time for remembering our loved ones and celebrate the resilience of our long-term survivors. A section of the AIDS memorial quilt will be on display. Join us for this fourth night of Hanukkah in person. And finally, our Silva food drive will be continued, so please remember to bring canned foods, toiletries, tuna fish is really needed, and peanut butter, and a lot of other items. But make sure that it's all non-perishable, and you could drop off your food in the lobby. As always, we hope you'll keep up to date on all that's happening at Kol Ami, and by visiting our website often at kol-ami.org. It's been so exciting to hear that for the last 2 years on Zoom from my couch. And while you're there, please consider a donation to support our sacred community. We rely on your support to offer our wide range of programs and services. Thank you. Thank you to our clergy, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom, Mark. Thank you. We also want to take a minute to thank our annual Shabbat sponsors who have sponsored our streaming services for the year. If you'd like to do that, you'll find all of their names listed in the program as well as in our lobby, and we appreciate all the support. Let's turn now to page 586 as we rise as you are able for the Aleinu L'Shabeach prayer.
Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל Hayom ahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
On this Shabbat, we're observing the Yortzites of Irving Aronson, uncle of Sharon Siegel, Elliot Joel Kaplan, father of Connie Kaplan, Ava Altman, grandmother of Martin Frank, Jane Steinman, mother of Rabbi Eleanor Steinman, Eli Hertz Sobel, stepfather of Wendy Glenn, Roger Werbel, uncle of Lee Werbel, Lloyd Gross, brother of Alvin Gross, and Marcia Stone Sherman, mother of Joe Sherman, on this their first Yortzeit, and of all of these loved ones whose Yortzeit plaques are lit in our sanctuary tonight. We're also recalling Al Kaiser, friend of Jane Drucker, Ramon Pasillas, father of Sally Beck, Cecile Sommerfeld, mother of Henry Sommerfeld, Virginia Sen, mother of Miles Sen, Stanley Milstein, father of Hugh Milstein, Tom Small, friend of Peter Mackler, Pauline Newman, mother of Carol Newman, Carol Kidd, sister of Beth Backrack, Martin Cohn, father of Elise Resch, William Zaslavsky, grandfather of Neil Zaslavsky, and Marshall Rio, life partner of Bill Weinberger. And we're recalling also and reciting Kaddish this past year for Roberto Martinez, Robert Weems, Adele Habibi, Sarah Klein, Francis Schiff, Lynn Ehrlich McCauley, Muriel Steicher, Marie Cecilia Ruvo, Eva Weinberger, Sandra Smith, Jack Ader, Esther Richmond, Mary Wilson, Josh Markowitz, Vincent Gabriel, Steve Boardman, Fred Michaels, Claude Casolino, Jeb Stewart Robertson, Barbara Rubin, Jill Dowler, Allison Schurz, Rochelle Kaminsky, Alan Eckelby, Gary Rosenfeld, Stephen May, Herbert Lank, Jack Salzberg, Paul Rush, Hanum Bashi, Michael Epstein, Marvin Keller, Mark Levin, Rick Gold, Erwin Sonny Citron, Don Eugene Robbins, Paula Tabor, and Ann Pendo. Are there others that you would like to remember and recall if you would say their name aloud? Those of you online, if you'd like to write a name in the chat to remember a loved one who's your side or you're saying Kaddish for, please do so now. As together, we turn to page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, bi'alma divrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agala v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mivarach le'olam olmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithaleh v'yithalal shemei dekudashah barichu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran b'yalma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabbah min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mamav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru amen. May the one who teaches peace in the heavens above help us to make peace here on earth with one another and grant eternal peace to those who've died. And together, let us say amen.
Amen.
Our closing song tonight is Shviti, page 578 by Nava Tehila.
Shiviti Adonai Benegdi Tamid. Shiviti Avaya Benegdi Tamid. Avaya
else said this: each person holds so much power within themselves that needs to be let out. Sometimes they just need a little nudge, a little direction, a little support, a little coaching, and the greatest things can happen. May this Shabbat give you the support you need. May this Shabbat help you to feel a sense of accomplishment. May this Shabbat help you make great things happen in your life and in the life of your family and in the life of our community. Shabbat Shalom. Good Shabbos, everyone. Go Rams.
Tighten up.